Hey friends, welcome back to the LegendFiction show. I'm joined by a deacon over in Texas who's also a professional, can I call you a professional gamer? Like you run
You could.
Intercession Gaming? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
you
you do
could, yeah.
this almost full time now. You've built an exciting program around people who, well, I'm going to let you tell us about it. What is Intercession Gaming? Welcome Alex to the show. What is Intercession Gaming? And you've got an awesome story about how you started this thing during the pandemic, I think it was. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
taken off since. You've built an entire program around this, and it's one of the most exciting things I've heard. It's anchored in, as we were talking just before we hit record,
hmm
it's anchored in this sense of friendship and community,
Yes,
which is not normal in the gaming space.
correct.
And
No,
we're
it's
trying to
not.
mess around with that and do that over in the storytelling space, and to find that we overlap in such brilliant ways with,
Absolutely.
well, with this sense of fellowship and friendship in this online con that you're coming to and we're hosting in a couple of weeks from now in October, is about being the friendliest con in the galaxy. And you're creating this, like, I don't know, the friendliest gaming community I've ever heard
Yes,
of. And so,
yes.
okay, I just threw a bunch at you. Tell us what
Yeah, no,
Intercession
no
Gaming is
worries.
about and the story.
Yeah, no worries. In fact, I'm very honored and privileged to be on your show first and foremost, and then the other thing as well too. Yeah, it's our what we're trying to do really kind of crosses paths, and it's very important and crucial. But I think also too, I think being able to create the sense of friendship and community online is a very hard thing to do because we're behind screens. I feel that a lot of times there's a sense of boldness that comes out of people because there's not
Right.
this
In the
human
wrong way,
interaction.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. In the wrong way. Boldness in us as individuals to be a little bit more outspoken because you're not in a public sphere. Where in a public sphere, there's more, I guess, quote unquote, what we would see or people behind the screen would see as a risk factor.
Yeah, yeah. Now
But
you
not
say
real life.
something dumb in real life, you get punched in the face.
Yeah,
You don't
or yeah,
have that on online.
or get heckled in front of a lot of
Well,
different
yeah.
people or have groups of people come after
Hmm.
you with retaliation of some sort. And so being behind a screen adds a sense of security for a lot of people, correct? But as much as that sense of security is there for us as individuals, we begin to see how those securities could also lead to insecurities about not only ourselves, but then as well to the human interaction that we can begin to kind of create with
Yeah, yeah.
outside of the online world, right? And that's kind of where intercession gaming comes into play and what we saw play a role in the pandemic part of everything that we saw a disconnect, but it was weird. There was a disconnect, but a connection. Disconnect obviously was there was no human interaction at all during the pandemic. So that induced a lot of more pulling away from community, especially in a public sphere. We already had what you would call, I guess, people behind the keyboards and behind their screens or behind their phones already posting things pre-pandemic. And so, but then when pandemic came around, that only increased it even more to a point to where people could become more hostile online. So during the pandemic, my kids and I were playing Fortnite at the time because my two oldest daughters enjoyed playing Fortnite. We played other games as well too, such as like different types of RPG type games and other types of legend and mythic type games, just to kind of keep us preoccupied. Even though my kids were homeschooled or family homeschools, still the sense of being able to keep them engaged interactively with other people, whether that was online or whether that was in person. Unfortunately, since the pandemic hit, it became more of an online thing. So we grew this community. In fact, we started playing randoms online in 2020, and I started meeting random age groups of different kids. Then what was interesting when my daughters and I were playing, we would come across these individuals, and they would begin to ask questions because we would share our loot. We would do things that normally gamers wouldn't do. Usually, in any kind of, especially an FPS game, a Fortnite
FPS is
game,
first person shooter,
first
right?
person shooter, correct?
Yeah. The
Yes,
goal is to
first
kill
person
everybody,
shooter. Yeah,
get to the end, right?
to get the idea is to be the last one standing, right? In lieu of eliminations. And so I know one of the biggest things with my wife was the violence and games and all that. So it took a lot of really trying to help her to understand and convince her to show and to physically and visually show her how this is a great opportunity for our kids to be able to build community in a healthy way, and especially with a moderator, which would be me. So with that being said, we play and then we share this loot, we share all these kinds of things with the different people that we came across in randoms. And from there, it just kind of grew to where they started asking questions. Why we were so nice, why we were willing to give up the most legendary weapons in the game and stick with the lower tier lower tier end loot, the exchanging and sharing of our ammo, even resources. The idea of our goal was to keep them alive and to keep them in the game with us, so it was more enjoyable for the random as well. And so my wife began to she sat down in these sessions and these different encounters that we had with various different kids. She was hearing their stories, I was hearing their stories, and hearing how they got bullied online, hearing how they wanted to friend request us because they wanted to play more often with our family, because there was a sense of belonging and community. There is a sense of for them having more a place to call home. And
Right.
so it's just kind of really building this communal friendship type of environment, kind of like what you're doing with Legend Con. And by the way, I've shared it with some of the people that I've encountered in my formation class, and as well as their our institution,
Oh, cool.
Mexican American Catholic College, at our college there. So it's kind of cool. They love the idea. So the idea of family and community is really big. So with that being said, we just continue to grow and move forward. My wife came up with the idea, well, why don't you create something that you could do maybe on Outschool? But before we even got to that point, we actually, before that, we had grown our community to be almost like 60 plus kids by the end of the pandemic that were actually joining with us. And they would Discord me because I would keep my notifications on at hours of the night, just Discording, saying, hey, they called me Bob and they knew me as Sensei Bob online. That was my name. So everyone called me back because the skin that I had looked like Bob the Builder. And so that's what they knew. That's what they kind of tagged me as. So it was a, hey, Bob, there's an issue online. This person is bullying this person. So then I would Discord that individual, say, hey, what's going on? Very casual, very nice, very friendly, very loving. And then I would say, like, hey, let's game later on this evening and say, I would like to hear your story. What's going on? And so they would talk to me. And so they would mesh, and they would kind of mesh and resolve the issue
Yeah.
online, and would be friends again.
Mostly
So the whole
guys, girls, or a mix of the
there's a
both.
it was a mix. It was a mix. In
Yeah.
fact, it was kind of interesting because even in our community, we had two different kids that were struggling with identity, had an identity issues, but they never blatantly said that. They just kind of alluded to that, to those situations in their lives. One identified as transgender, another identified as same sex attraction in some other cases. And in those communities, we allowed ourselves to be able to kind of dialogue and work through different things, but they never at any point felt like they were never part of the community. And they always had respect for one another. Didn't matter where they were in their walk and journey. Now, this allowed them to be able to open up and asking us questions about our faith, and asking us questions about our walk and journey in our faith, and which kind of intrigued and piqued their interest to want to look and learn more. So the idea was we were meeting people where they were at, and it was allowing them to be able to become more more friendly to one another, to where it was more human interaction, to understand that just because a person feels a particular way or has a certain kind of ideology shouldn't be the reason why it separates you from another human being.
Yeah.
The whole goal
Exactly.
was really to kind of bring in the goal. The whole goal was really trying to bring in the ins and outs of that Christ wants us to love, but wants us to bring them to truth through love. And the only way we can draw them into that is by doing how Christ did it. And what he did was he went out, he told the Pharisees how it was, pretty much straight up. And he said it straight out to the Pharisees, but with love and kindness and gentleness in the same way with the Gentiles. It's kind of weird with the Samaritans. He was definitely more welcoming, more opening. And not to say he wasn't welcoming to the Pharisees, but the fact that it was kind of like this thing is like, no, we need to have this sense of community, and a sense where there is a place where people can feel
Yeah.
belong and feel like there's
Honestly, the
something.
Pharisees, every time we meet them, they're up in his face. I mean, they're
Yeah, it's kind of
challenging him. It's like, it's not a
absolutely.
friendly situation.
No, it's
Everybody
not.
else is like, you see more of that. I remember rereading the Gospel, just burning through them and deciding, okay, I'm not going to read this from a devotional standpoint. I'm just going to read
Yeah,
this end to end to get it all in all at once, because it's
yeah,
always Sunday sermons. And what really struck me in a way I'd never seen it before was how much he spent during his 3 years of ministry
yeah.
with the common people. And
It's
all he did
amazing,
was corporal works of mercy, right? Feeding and
crazy,
exercising and healing and helping and telling stories and kissing
drawing them in.
children and just,
Yeah,
right? That's all he did. And then
yeah.
when the Pharisees got in his face, like he talked him back off the ledge and,
Yeah, Yeah.
stern with them, but it's like we miss that. I don't know. I did miss that
Yeah.
sense of
I did
how we
too.
treated most people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that sometimes when we go into gaming communities or communities like that, and especially if you're in an environment where um you know where you stand in your faith. I know sometimes we have this sense of like being protectors, right? Kind of like the sense of like, well, I got to protect my faith. And it's that sense of kind of like we're on the defense
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
versus really in the
I
sense
gotta
of
win, you gotta lose.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I realized growing up in the faith. I always heard about protectors of the faith, with people within my group. But then as I began to go into formation and really kind of understand, and then the gaming part of it really helped me open my eyes. Like there's a lot of brokenness, but at the same time, in that brokenness, there's a lot of people that are looking for friendships and community. And there's a lot of people looking for ways to expand their creativity. But when they don't have that loving support or that compassion from a group of individuals that's willing to walk with them through this journey, it doesn't make it very easy for them to be able to kind of be the one to look at, I can do this, I can get through this. Because even in the walk with journey with your creativities or with your talents or your hobbies, I could actually, believe it or not, can really veer back to your own personal struggles. To say like, I have a community that's not only willing to walk with me through my creativity, but I have a community that's willing to walk through with me as I'm writing or as I'm doing what I'm doing or as I'm playing video games or maybe developing a game. I'm able to walk through this journey with the people that are here willing to support me and provide me both constructive criticism and positive feedback that can help me be a better writer or can help me be a better gamer. Because it's like the same thing. So I think I heard it from somewhere. Can't remember where, but it's kind of like the same way you put practice. When you put practice into something, you put practice into it with the intent of investment because you're investing into it, not for so much because you're looking to gain something really, really personal out of it, but you're looking to gain something more rewarding that is a sense of accomplishment. But the same token, in the sense of accomplishment, when it comes to the physical world of it, like we're talking about an athletic sport, you're looking at the accomplishment of physicality, more athletic, healthier, those kinds of things, right? Which in the turn do end up turning into a personal accomplishment in the end. But first going into it, it's all about really just in the sense of I just want to be healthier. I just kind of want to do this. I want to achieve these goals. And we start to set these goals. But when it comes to your soul, it's like what I tell everyone online. It's about kingdom XP. And the idea is that we gain
Yeah,
this
say more
kingdom
about that.
XP.
That you described that
Yeah.
last time. It was so cool.
Yeah.
Kingdom
Yeah.
XP. What is that?
It's like ranking up in your spiritual life by what you put to practice. So in other words, it's kind of like the same way when you grind a particular game or you're grinding, if it's a story you're writing or an art you're working on, a piece of art, the more practice you put into your gifts and talents, the more sharpened they're going to become and the more XP and the more experience you gain, right? So that's kind of the whole idea of Kingdom XP. The more we practice our faith, the more we get experience in what we do here on earth, but that experience also bounds up in heaven, right? So that's what scripture says, what is bounded in heaven is bounded here on earth as well. And so how we bound ourselves to the things here of this earth is going to really make a big difference in the kingdom of heaven. So that's why Kingdom XP is absolutely important to our prayer life, right? To our prayer life, our going to mass, or having good relationship with God is those are the most important things. These are ways to have relationship with God, and I think a lot of us miss that in so many different opportunities, in so many different ways, that we don't realize that in reality, that by what we put to practice helps us build that relationship with God, and helps us to build it in a really more tight knit way because that XP really bounds up and it really kind of allows us to be able to get through the struggles. And that XP also is by loving one another. That's the first two commandments that he tells us that above all the other 10 is to love God with all your heart, your mind, and your soul, and two, to love others as you would love yourself. And I think that is the maximum, like that is the epitome of all the experience you can get in life, because then all of the other things will just fall into place, like the commandments and the things that we talk about, the rules and regulations and the things that the nuances and the experiences within the church become more alive because you're ranking up in this kingdom XP. You're becoming more aware. It's kind of like the same way, like when you play a game or you do anything, you become more aware of your craft. You become more aware of the gifts. You become more aware of, things that you can do to help you achieve, to get to the next phase, to get to the next part of your spiritual journey. So I think it's really cool to kind of see how this kind of all plays out in the reality. And people don't realize the beauty of the world, how it really interconnects with our soul. And that when we can use things like video games or writing or movies to help us relate to the human nature of who we are, but also allow us to be able to relate the idea of the divine and human together. I think it's incredible because you begin to realize the beauty of human creativity when used correctly can definitely elevate the experience of the human life. It can allow us to step into something that is truly divine if we just allow ourselves to be able to fall into those first two steps of love God with all your heart, with all your mind, all your soul, and to love your neighbor as you would love yourself. I mean, I think
So
it's beautiful in its sense.
yeah. Okay, so you're a dad and
Yes.
you're also in formation for being a deacon, and you also run this ministry now full time.
hmm
What is Intercession Gaming now, and where is it going?
So typically, intercession? Well, I'll start with that. Intercession gaming. What is intercession gaming? So intercession gaming is typically um, it's a Catholic gaming company, and what we mean is we don't develop the video games, but our goal is we utilize platforms that kids are familiar with, like video game platforms, Fortnite, Minecraft, and then we also do Roblox, and then we're currently that's what we're doing as of now. So we have what we call a digital formation, digital a religious education program, and what it is typically individuals can, parents, young people, but mostly parents, can enroll their child from ages 10 to 17 into our program where they log into a safe, secured video chat and a voice chat servers, and then we actually create the lobbies so that the lobbies are only exclusive to those particular kids that enroll to the program. And the way it works is typically they sign up, and then we have a 3 level type program where they can start with level 1, level 2, level 3, depending where their child is in the formation process of understanding their faith, and then they grow with this over the years. And then each of those levels progressively allow them to understand scripture, to understand their faith, to understand themselves in their journey, and to also discern vocation. I think that's our third step, is where they can
So
actually start
you're
discerning the
consulting
vocational.
and teaching.
Yes.
Is that what you're? Is this pre-recorded stuff, or you're doing all of these things live
So
in
all of
these
this, it's
lobbies?
live. So yeah, it's in a
Wow.
classroom setting, so it's actually all live. So it's like if they were actually, like, you're dropping off your child off at CCD class
Yeah,
or
yeah.
religious education class, and you do it like for the Sundays, and you drop them off for the hour, and then you come back and pick them up. Well, instead of the parent having to leave their house, this is obviously, it's non-sacramental, by the way. It's a non-sacramental program, so that it supplements the sacramental program. So that the idea is that the kids could be ready, geared and ready and prepared, so when they go into the sacrament of preparation course for their church or their parish, they're able to utilize what they've learned in our religious education program to
So are
be
you
able
all
to.
gaming together, and then you're
Yes.
teaching them these things? Okay,
So
so
yeah, we're
it's
gaming. Yeah,
yeah.
so we're gaming together, and we're teaching them these particular things within
Okay.
the actual online setting. So
How long have
that's
you
kind
been
of how
doing
that.
it for now?
We had done this with the Patch Squad originally in a more secular format. So in that format, we saw that that was successful, but that was kind of like, it was non-religious, but we still added more morality and moral religious elements into what we did. So I'd say we've been doing this for about 6 or 7 years, and then we just
Amazing.
recently decided to fully launch the intercession gaming portion of it just this year. So we have seen people like the idea and wanted to gravitate towards it. We're in the second phase of our promotional, where we're going to start talking with parishes, clergy, and then start implementing it within and start bringing it to the attention of religious educators. Right now, we're doing grassroots efforts where we stream live online on YouTube, and we do that every Sunday at 8:30 p.m. And then daily we upload the daily readings, but in a gameplay format. So what we do
Wow.
is we take the gospel and we make it into a Fortnite challenge, and we have to do that Fortnite challenge throughout the entire game. And the end goal is to determine the difficulty of that challenge. That challenge, depending on the difficulty, shows us the difficulty of how it is in our spiritual journey. So we're able to relate that to a spiritual walk and just say, like, just as hard as it was in the game, these things are very hard to do in real life. but we have to keep practicing at it. And the idea is that we relate the gospel readings to that same concept, and then we don't go into depth on our YouTube channels, but we kind of scratch the surface so they kind of understand how that gospel relates to our spiritual walk and our personal life, and how it's applied to us, how we can apply it on a daily basis, and we put it to
Yeah.
practice.
What an exciting mission. Gosh, I love how imaginative it is. And also, it sounds really practical. And I mean, heck, I'd love to. It sounds like it'd just be fun to do. I love bringing or reconnecting learning, especially around religious topics, and finding a way to bridge that into
Yeah.
something we do already all the time, gaming. And like you
Mhm.
say, doing it in an environment of people who are intentionally working together at being friendly and trying to
Yes.
keep people playing games and not just, not just win. What's next, or what are you working towards? What's your like short term, near future goals for Intercession?
We want to open up a young adult section to what we do. Obviously, those will be a little bit more mature games that we'll be looking at, but definitely that age. We want to be able that age bracket. So like Call of Duty is like would be considered mature age in that age bracket. And being able to provide a platform where young adults can subscribe and be a part of a Catholic centric community or a gaming centric community that revolves around building friendships, community, and being able to just build that bond with one another, so that if they, let's say that young adult on a weekend or on a weekday wants to hang out and chill, they're able to do that on our platform. So we'll be able to create that. So that's the next step, to be able to do that. And then obviously our other goal for the youth portion of it is to create meetups so that we can actually have a location where we can go parish to parish and we can meet up, where we could do those kinds of things, still focused around the gaming environment, but being able to do more in-person stuff. So bridging the gap between the online experience to the
Nice.
in-person experience, and being able to meet us in person as well too, because when you see someone online, it's a whole lot different than when you meet them in person.
Yeah, yeah.
It almost seems a little bigger than life when you meet the person in real life, even if it's just a friend.
It's funny, yeah. It's wonderful. Well, so yeah, on our end, so we'll talk about Legend Haven as our closing
Yeah,
thought here.
absolutely.
So you're joining us for the con. This is your first year with us, which is kind of exciting. We're
Yes,
pulling into our
yes,
fourth year for Legend Haven,
that's
and
awesome.
we've called ourselves, because we want to be the friendliest con in the galaxy.
Hmm.
Because in the storytelling space, the movie space, as well as like gaming, people are hungry and also looking for the same sense of friendship and fellowship and
Yeah.
meaning, right? So what is it that you're going to be doing at the con? And I think it's going to be a wonderful opportunity for people to hang out with you and meet you and chat with you and so on. So let's talk about, your activity at the con.
So yeah, I mean, I know for a fact, one of the things is be part of the panel, being able to hopefully answer any questions or
Yeah, we're talking all about gaming and storytelling is the
yes.
panel.
So
Yeah.
it's gonna be kind of amazing, because I think I think one of the biggest questions is that I've encountered, me personally, and what I'll be doing at the con is, I think, kind of helping people understand the gap between, is it okay to game and still be faithful. I think the largest gap a lot of people run into that I find common, is my goal is to really address how this could be an opportunity for digital missionary work. And how this could be an opportunity for individuals to be able to grow in an online environment, but with the intention of being able to show them how this is very possible to be able to build relationship, not just with people, but build relationship with God. And then the other thing as well too is to help others really understand the ins and out of how being creative, because that content creation, one of the things is, when it comes to content creation, people just think that I can just talk about a scripture and then put it online, and then just play a video game while doing it. There's a lot of preparation has to go into that process, a lot of the creativity, coming up with the challenges, coming up with the different things,
I have no idea how you do that. It sounds amazing.
and the different levels now of digging, right? Because every layer has to be specific. So, for example, one of the biggest things is the first layer, which is the introductory layer. It's probably the hardest layer, I think, for a lot of people who are very religious, who are very, they're at a particular level in their faith where they haven't been back at that introductory level for a long time. So trying to go back and create ideas and concepts that are more surfaced, but to a sense can still help them dig a little deeper. That's always a hard time. So a lot of that I'll be addressing, how we as individuals are able to dig we can dig deeper by looking at different levels of our faith. In that it's very similar to gaming. It's the same way. You don't go into a video game playing the boss battle right away. It doesn't happen that way.
Right.
And so a lot of correlation to that. And so that's going to be pretty much a lot of it is saying that we're all at different levels in our faith. We're at different levels in our journey. We're all at different levels in everything that we do. And the correlation is really just to help them understand how we have to start where, with what level best suits us so that we can get to the next part. And just relating a lot of it to really how our personal life is very much similar to that. So that's more so of the surface of what we're going to be scratching and then kind of discussing of that and then also implementing that into hopefully some live gameplay where people can interact and engage with us as well too, and be able to kind of see how that platform works and the fun too. Also too, will probably allow individuals. We have a queuing section that they'll be able to queue into if they want to play the game with us, or for those who are not gamers, individuals that might just enjoy the chat portion of it and just asking questions in regards to things and building community and allowing them to be themselves also within the chat as well too. It allows us to be able to interact and engage with any questions they may have about just us or the gaming industry and how we can make this a very fruitful and vital place for growth. I think it's important.
Amazing.
Creating digital missionaries is the end goal. I
Yeah,
think
there
getting
you go.
people equipped enough to be able to go out and proclaim the word through their actions. You don't have to be the guy on the corner of the street with a megaphone preaching
Right,
the word
right.
of God. It's as simple as literally just acts of kindness, maybe sharing their loot, maybe dropping
Hmm.
an item they normally wouldn't drop, just encouraging those types of actions in games.
That's awesome. Where can people find you to connect with you and get in touch?
Yeah, in fact, they can go to our website, intercessiongaming.com. That's intercessiongaming.com. And they can definitely connect with us there. We have a little chat box there on the side. They can chime in on a question if they want to as well. And then they can also email us at intercessiongaming@gmail.com. Intercessiongaming@gmail.com. You type our name in Google, we'll be one of the first gaming under Intercession to pop up. So you just type in Intercession Gaming in Google as well. You'll find us immediately on the first page.